would it take for you to go stay at an Atari-themed hotel? Well, as you might remember, it's been, well, 4 years now since Atari threw out the idea that they were apparently or supposedly developing some hotels which were supposed to launch across 8 different cities by the end of 2022. Now that we're in the beginning of 2024 and they haven't even broken land yet, or ground yet, kind of tells you really where that's headed. But for some reason, there's a little bit of news on this today. And so if we go here to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, we have the story that says, plans for Atari-themed hotel in Las Vegas not dead yet. So cue the Monty Python, I'm not dead yet clip. But after years of no news, the video game-themed Atari hotel concept planned for Las Vegas could be moving forward. An Atari hotel spokesperson, unnamed, said in a Tuesday email to the Las Vegas Review-Journal that the developers are in talks for potential sites for the concept. That sounds weird. Yes, we are in talks with the land partners for potential Las Vegas sites, but have not made a final decision, the statement read. A series of project announcements is coming in the first half of 2024, and that's it. So it's really not news. I almost have the feeling that the whole point of this was from somebody that decided to pick up the old files and it's like, hey, should we still bother with this? Let's see if anybody cares, and throw it out there. And so then you get people like me, because I cover Atari stuff, talking about it. But I'm obviously a teeny tiny drop in the social media rainstorm. But, yeah, what do you really think of an Atari-themed hotel? I mean, when this first was announced, I figured it was just another scheme from the Chisnai's Atari to, you know, throw something at the wall, see if it sticks. If it doesn't, we just pretend it never happened. And that's really what it felt like, is that it just was one of those things, because obviously building a hotel is not a cheap endeavor. But the thing that's often been strange to me about this is when I think of themed hotels, or why I would go to what kind of themed hotel would get me to go to it. I mean, first off, it's the cost. If it's going to be, say, like the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser or whatever that was an insane cost. It was developed just for the rich, or people that want to blow their life savings on a hotel experience for a few days. And that has famously, or maybe infamously, flopped in spectacular fashion, even though it had the backing of Disney and it had what used to be one of the biggest IPs in the world, Star Wars, attached to it. But when you think of Atari, it's like, I don't know, I mean, as much as it would have been cool when I was a teenager to go to, say, an Atari-themed park or arcade or something like that, is there anything that would get me to, as an adult, to go to a hotel? It's hard to say. I mean, yes, I'm a big Atari fan. I have all the Atari systems, and except for the unconsole version. But it's just like Atari doesn't have the IP that really draws in crowds. You know, like maybe they're looking at Super Nintendo worlds and seeing the success there, but you cannot compare anything that Atari has to Super Mario Brothers. It just, no, it won't work. If Atari was to release an animated flick based on one of their IPs like Asteroids or Major Havoc or Crystal Castles tomorrow, it would not make over $1 billion, because nobody really knows what it is except for a bunch of guys like me, and I don't know about you who are watching, but I'm in my 40s, and I know there's plenty of Atarians that are in that age range or older. but it's not been a brand, and the IP has not been something that's appealed to kids. And so even with my kids living in a house that has all these Atari games in it, they never ever play them. They never talk about them. They never watch other YouTubers talking about Atari stuff. It's not in the mainstream gaming consciousness. It's not in the mainstream cultural consciousness. And so this just seems like a boomer hotel. And again, I don't know what it is that they would put in there. Now, if I was, say, in charge of the project of, how would you develop an Atari-themed hotel? What sort of attractions would you put in there? Well, it's like, yeah, you would obviously design some things that are based on asteroids and Centipede and Missile Command and Haunted House and Adventure and Crystal Castles, etc. And find ways to create more than just the game. You'd have to, again, approach it from the perspective of, say, you're designing a theme park or designing a theme park ride, a roller coaster or a dark ride, or some other sort of interactive attraction that appeals to those there. It's just, even then, it just seems risky to me because, as I said, none of those IP are the type that draws in billions of dollars anymore. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I don't have the financials of Atari sitting right here in front of me, and maybe Asteroids still rakes in millions and millions of dollars. But at least from the public releases that I've seen, it doesn't look like the remakes and all that stuff is really drawing people in droves anymore. It's just appealing to us older guys still. Would you want an arcade that has some Atari games in it? Yeah, absolutely. Now, would it be plausible to have, say, an arcade that has nothing but Atari video games in it? Not really. Most of the games that people would know would be much older machines, and anybody who has actually operated those machines like myself could tell you that they are very difficult to keep going. And so, now, there was a concept way back, and it did exist for a short time, and I think it was about 1982 through 84, maybe it was 83, that by the time it failed, but it was called the Atari Adventure Centers. And so these were kind of like Atari stores, like before Apple had their stores or Microsoft had theirs. Yeah, it was an attempt to do something like that for Atari, but it covered consoles, home computers, as well as arcades. And I even come across tokens for them before, and so there was, I don't know how many locations existed, but there was something like that there. And there is a picture out there of Star Raiders, like a special, unique version of Star Raiders that was designed for the Atari Adventure Centers. So it's like something like that you would probably want, and that would be cool. And you can see here somebody threw in sim racing, which is a little bit silly because it's like that's obviously not based on any Atari IP. Over here you have Asteroid, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you could do some racing thing like do an up-to-date sprint. There are professional simulator companies which could slap the sprint IP onto what they already do, and you could have something like that. There's a few companies I know of that develop those sorts of games. And there are some others out there too which are focused on developing theme parks and rides and such. And with the right thinking, right concept, you could come up with some cool concepts. It's just, again, I don't know that it would be enough to sustain several hotels or, say, like a whole full-blown theme park to compete with Super Nintendo World. I'm sure a lot more consumers would more quickly identify and want to go to something by Nintendo or Sega before they would go to something by Atari. And even by that realm, Capcom and Konami are far more likely to pull in larger crowds than Atari probably would be, which I hate to say that. I'm just trying to look at it as objectively as I can without the rose-colored glasses. But what sort of attractions would pull you in to an Atari-themed hotel or sort of theme park, kind of like this concept art is showing? Is all you need is the Atari logo? I know that's good enough for some people. mainly for people that will buy a console without anything on it, just that logo. But is that all you would need, or what else would you want to see to draw you in? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll catch you on the next video.